Welcome back to Budget Bolter. I've only literally just finished uploading the last video on Death Guard leaks, and guess what? I've got even more. So first up is the Plague Company keyword. Just to quickly gloss over it. Harbingers, Inexorable, Mortarian's Anvil, Wretched? Oh, Wretched. Poxmongers, Ferryman, Mortarians, Chosen Sons are all back. Again, these generally just follow the exact same thing where you change your keyword to these. The items that the rules to the individual play companies is something that I don't have at the moment, but I'll probably upload this video and then find all the next ones. Plague weapons unchanged. Again, that's just reroll wound rolls of 1 on any weapon that is a plague weapon. They also have the rule Remorseless, which works out as the same way as the Shall Know No Fear that Space Marines got, where you ignore all combat attrition modifiers. So that means if your unit is next to anything that is got a combat attrition debuff, or if there's something such as your unit is below half strength when you've got to take a test, you're never going to have that minus 1 for being at half strength. Malicious Volleys is back. Again, this one, it feels a little bit more redundant with how Inexorable Advance works. So basically, if your shooting model is within half the range, you rapid fire, you get your rapid fire bonus. If the infantry model and it remains stationary in the previous movement phase, again, just exactly the same, and as if the shooting model is a Terminator. And that's for rapid fire bolt weapons. Pretty much no changes from what I can see there. And then obviously everyone's massively disappointed that Disgusting Resilient got changed to -1 damage, as opposed to your 5 up feel no pain. This is something where I think in the current meta of plasma guns, because obviously it's a marine driven meta at the moment, things like plasma guns are great for killing Space Marines. So anything that makes it more hard for you to be killed, so they won't be overcharging against you, which makes taking out your 2 wound Plague Marines considerably harder. Next up is the Warlord traits. The very first one is Revoltingly Resilient, which is each time this Warlord would lose a wound, roll 1d6 and a 5+, the wound is not lost. So it's not gone, it's just a Warlord trait. Who knows, maybe there's a way to give it to core units or something along them lines, but just to let you know though, Mortarian has got Revoltingly Resilient, Living Plague, and Arch Contaminator is his built-in Warlord trait, and he gets to take an extra on, so he's got 4 Warlord traits. He's got, 16 wounds, 3 up save, 4 up invulnerable. He's got at least -1, you can give him -1 damage. He's got a 5 up feel no pain. He's going to be extremely hard to kill. Living Plague, which is another one of Mortarian's Warlord traits. When an enemy unit is within 3 inches of this Warlord, cannot be affected by aura abilities from units from your opponent's army. So, like a lot like that Admech flyer that turns off auras, or the is it Night Lords or Alpha Legion Helldrakes, where you can just turn off aura abilities. What's quite nice is for the greater good, I'm pretty certain it's classed as an aura ability. So if you want to just stomp on Tau even more, there you go. You can turn off Chapter Master rerolls on something like Blade Guard veterans. There's a lot that you can do with these. As a Space Wolves player, having my litanies turned off for like Canticle of Hate, for like rerolling hit rolls or getting +1 to wound, stuff like that, that's going to seriously hurt. Next up, Hulking Physique, something that actually Mortarian doesn't have, but if you want, you could take on him. So it's 2 parts. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic this Warlord, pretty decent. Each time attacks made against this Warlord, an unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3, it fails, irrespective of any abilities that the weapon or the model making may have. So anything where it's like a poison weapon, I don't think there's any poison weapon that necessarily affects anything other than infantry, but you can give this to Mortarian. He's got an extra wound, which at like 16 or whatnot, it's not a massive difference, but the fact that melter guns, laser destroyers, knights punching you aren't going to wound you on a 1, 2 or 3. It makes them, again, very, very tough. I know obviously the word distraction Carnifex got chucked around. I don't know realistically. Even stuff like Eradicators, the boogeyman of the edition, stuff like them, they're going to really struggle to take out Mortarion. He's 490 points, so he's just about a quarter of the army. It's a very depending on what else is in the rest of your list, someone could pretty much put everything into him and not kill him. Next up is Arch Contaminator. So this is when a friendly Plague Company keyword core unit is within 6 inches of Warlord. Each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack with a Plague weapon, you can reroll the wound roll. Each time a model in the unit makes a ranged attack with a Plague weapon, that targets a unit within 12 inches, you can reroll the wound roll. So it's very similar to how it used to be, which was you reroll wound rolls on Plague weapons. The only difference is it no longer affects stuff like your mortar and your Plague Burst crawlers, or if there's going to be a way to buff the las cannons to Plague weapons. A slight nerf, but let's not beat around the bush. Arch Contaminator was pretty much the Warlord trait you took in every single Death Guard army in up until Psychic Awakening came out at the back end of last year. Again, not a bad change, and melee Death Guard, with obviously not having negative modifiers to charges and stuff, look, they could be really strong. Next up is Rotten Constitution. +1 toughness to the characteristic of your Warlord. You could make Mortarion toughness 9 just to be even more of a nuisance to kill. Potentially, I think Hulk and Physique might be better, but that would take a lot of maths. On the next part of it, each time attack with an attack characteristic of 1 or 2 is allocated to the Warlord. Its attack has an armor penetration characteristics of 0. We all know how good this is with is it Valorous Heart Sisters, where you ignore -2 AP. Is someone that also plays Ultramarines. Don't lynch us in the comments, please. -2 bolters aren't nothing to scoff at. Not when you've got 40 shots, pretty much re-rolling all misses, and then you can buff them up with chaplains too. They're just going to plink off them. So again, not a bad choice. And then the next one is Foul Effluence. I'm learning all sorts of new words here. This is while an enemy unit is within 6 inches of Warlord, at the end of your movement phase, roll 1d6 for the unit. On a 4+, suffers 1 mortal wound. It's not bad, but when you compare it to some of the other things, like a permanent transhuman physiology, ignoring AP, disgustingly resilient, the old wording of it, it just doesn't make the cut. So with the name characters, there is only 2 in this book. Typhus has got the Shamble Rot Warlord trait, which is obviously a part of his Plague Company. This isn't something that I currently have to available. Who knows, I'll probably find it as soon as I finish making this video. Next up, I've got the stratagems. So I'll quickly gloss over these. Trench Fighters. When a Death Guard Plague Marine is selected to fight, if it's got any Plague Knives, which every single one does, it makes an additional attack 1 CP. Pretty much the same as Psychic Awakening. I don't think there's an actual difference to there. Creeping Blight. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. When a Death Guard unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of phase, each time a model makes an attack with a Plague Weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 6 gets -4 AP. Again, stick that on Plague Marines with Trench Fighters, and you've got knives that are hitting -4 AP. Let's not forget that they've got 2 attacks each. If you give them 2 knives, it goes up to 3 if that's still possible. So you got a big blob of them. Pretty nice. Fire Fever. Use this when a Death Guard Hellbrute unit is selected to shoot. Until end of phase, the model can select one single eligible unit. Each time an attack's made, add 1 to the hit roll and 1 to the wound roll. Not bad if you kit them out with obviously stuff like melters and whatnot. +1 to wound on a melter, you're probably going to have most things in the game. You're going to be wounding on 2s, and everyone knows how good melters are this edition. Next up is Vermid Whispers. I'm sure they make up some of these words, and I'd love to know what half of them even mean. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. When a Death Guard Terminator unit is selected to fight, on the fight phase, you can also select this. Doesn't carry across phases though. When it's selected to fight, until the end of the phase, each time the model makes attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Pretty much, this is just a copy and paste from the Loyalist Marine one, just +1 to hit on your Terminators. Give them axes or whatnot, they're hitting on 2s. Give them, if they've got anything beefier, then obviously you're negating -1s to hit. Here's a corruption, this is 2 CP. Everything so far has been 1 as well, if I haven't mentioned it. So here's a corruption. Use in the fight phase. When a Death Guard core unit is selected to fight until the end of the phase, each time an enemy model is destroyed by an attack by a model in that unit, any excess damage inflicted is not lost and is said suffered by another model in that unit. Don't make a saving throw for that model. This continues until there's no excess damage remaining. This, everybody knew how good flails were last edition because of being able to carry over excess damage. This is a big deal on things like Death Shroud Terminators that have got Man Reapers or Plague Reapers or anything that's multiple damage. It's not worse than going into, I don't know, let's just say a Tau because everybody hates them, and taking out some Fire Warriors or something like that. They've all got 1 wound, you've killed them with 2 free damage weapons or whatnot, and obviously the damage wasted, obviously against Marines, or a Death Guard that are getting -1 to damage. It's not as good, but again, it just makes if there's a Horde meta coming, who knows, against Orcs and Tyranids, look, could be a good little good buff. 2 CP, well costed, but again, very good in my opinion. Next up, use a stratagem in your shooting phase. When a bubonic Astartes infantry unit is selected to shoot or in the fight phase, when it's chosen to fight, until the end of the phase, each time a model makes attack, add 1 to its wound roll, and that's 2 CP. +1 to wound, 2 CP, not bad. Potentially could make a big unit of Plague Marines with bolters. Potentially we might be able to have them into Plague weapons. That makes them, they can kind of punch above their own weight with when you start giving things +1 to wound. So we'll see how that turns out. Mutant Strain, I believe it's probably going to be similar to the old Mutant Strain. So 1 CP, select a Poxwalker's unit to fight, tell in the phase, each time attacks made by that unit. Unmodified wound roll, a hit roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound. An unmodified hit roll of 1 inflicts a mortal wound on the Poxwalkers. So 6s to hit, put a mortal wound on the enemies, and an unmodified hit roll of 1 puts a wound on the Poxwalkers. Not bad with them being throwaway units kind of thing. And again, can kind of, when you got massive attacks, it can kind of, it does add up. Next up, so Diseased Effluence. I'm pretty certain this is, isn't there the Warlord trait's named something very similar. So 1 CP again. Use a start in your command phase. When a Death Guard character model and 1 enemy model within the engagement range of that model suffers 1 mortal wound, and then you roll 1d6 on a 2+. The enemy suffers 2d3 mortal wounds. If the enemy has a character keyword, it suffers d3 mortal wounds instead. So you hurt yourself to hurt them even more. Thought this was a year where everyone needs to come together, but obviously Death Guard don't think that way. It's not bad. And look, 2d3 mortal wounds could put some serious hurt on a weaker army, such as, I don't know, Genestealer Cults or Imperial Guard. But chances are, if you're in close combat with them, chances are you're just going to mess them up anyway. Right, so next up, Unclean Machine Spirit, 1 CP. Use a stratagem in the command phase, select 1 Death Guard Machine Spirit model from your army. Don't know what they are yet, though. In the Space Marines Codex, that's stuff like your Land Raiders and your Pulsars. So more than likely, this is probably going to just be Land Raiders. Who knows? Might be Plague Burst Crawlers too. Until the start of your next command phase, a model is considered to have full wounds remaining for the purpose of determining what characteristics are. So 1 CP, you fight on you have your top bracket. Not bad. 1 CP, not it's fine. Next up, so Befouled Incubators, 1 CP. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. When a Death Guard character model from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase, each time an enemy model is destroyed by an attack made by that model, roll 1d6. On a 3+, that enemy model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound after your model has resolved all of its attack. Maximum of 3 mortal wounds inflicted per phase of the stratagem. Not bad. 1 CP. If you're going to use it on a unit, you're probably going to do it on like a big melee unit, so maybe Poxwalkers or Plague Marines, Death Shroud. 1 CP to have a pretty decent chance of, you're probably going to max out them 3 mortal wounds if you use it well. Pretty good. 3 mortal wounds, 1 CP, not bad. Next up, Release of Toxins, 2 CP. Use a stratagem in the command phase, select 1 Death Guard character model in your army that was equipped with a Relic of Decay. Start the battle, roll a d6 for each enemy within 7 inches of that model. On a 2 to 5, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 6, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. A model can only be selected for the stratagem once per battle. 2 CP, I don't see using every game. But look, it's going to have them times where you might be surrounded by a lot of small units. Again, though, the armies that are running MSUs, so minimum size units, are going to be Space Marines, where they're normally rocking 2 wounds a piece anyway, so it might work out good, but it's not necessarily something, because it has to be equipped with a relic, so you can't really put on Mortarion or anything. I'm not too sure about it. Probably a bit of a C minus, that one. So next up, Eruption of Filth. So this is 1 CP. Use it in any phase when a Death Guard character is destroyed. Instead of using any other rules that are triggered when a model is destroyed, e.g. the Putrid Explosion ability. Before removing that model, roll a d6 for each other unit within 3. On a 2 to 5, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 6, it's d3. Again, anything that's 1 CP. It might come in clutch on sometimes. It's not the best thing. 1 CP to potentially, though, massively change your game. Can't complain about. So next up, Champion of Disease. So this 1 CP, it's pretty much just select a Bubonic Astartes model that has a champion keyword. You can give them a relic of declare. You can give them one of the following relics of declare. So Reaper of Glorious Entropy, Plague Skull of Golfia, Plague Bringer, and Suppurating Plate, which I'm excited is back because everybody loved it. You can't obviously have multiple relics. You can't use it. Give them 2. Each one has to be unique. You can only use it once, unless you're playing Strike Force, which in Turson you can use it twice. Or if you're in Onslaught, you can use it 3 times. Again, this is, most armies have got this. Gift of Decay. Spend a CP. You can give an extra character a relic. Again, follows all the rules that every other army's pretty much got. Plague Chosen, exactly the same, but this is for your Warlord traits, so you can give multiple Warlord traits to, not multiple, to different characters in that army. Right, next up, Grandfather's Influence. This is 1 or 2 CP. So when mustering your army, select a Death Guard Chaos Spawn from your army. So you can add 1 to the toughness, to the characteristics and models in that unit, and it's got Disgustingly Resilient. We'll have to see what Chaos Spawn are like. Again, without seeing the data sheets, it's okay. They're relatively cheap. They might be okay for like a backfield objective holder, or just to be a nuisance and be hard to kill. So if it's got 3 or less models, it costs 1. If it's got more than 3, it costs 2. It's okay. Next up, 2 CP, Sickly Corrosion. Use a stratagem in the fight phase or shooting phase. so it doesn't carry across both. When Death Guard model from your army makes an attack with Plague Weapon that scores a hit against enemy unit, till end of turn, each time an attack is made by Death Guard model, reroll a wound roll of 1. So this is similar to, was it Worm Spitter that you got on Psychic Awakening, where it was a pistol and you could basically give Plague Weapon rerolls. It's pretty good. You can give it on something that's got a bolt pistol, shoot a tank, and then your multi-melters are now Plague Weapons, or at least rerolling wounds of 1. 2 CP, it's not bad. Next up, Belching Fumes. This is 1 or 2 CP. Stratagem: at the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select a Mephitic Blight Hauler from your army until the end of phase. Each time an enemy model makes an attack with a ranged weapon against that unit, reduce the number of attacks made by that weapon by 1. If the unit contains 2 or fewer models, this stratagem costs 1, otherwise it costs 2. So it's pretty much confirmation you can still run Blight Haulers in at least groups of more than 2. So yeah, it's not bad. Again, it's one of them things where you're gonna have to do the maths on it, and off the top of my head I can't think. I've completely forgot what their normal toughness is. Look, it might make a difference. It just depends on obviously what guns are popular on the meta. Next up is Blight Bombardment. This is the one that was previewed the other day. It's Orbital Bombardment pretty much. It's 2 or 3 CP. I'm not going to go over it because it's available on the community site. It's okay for denying objectives. The only issue is it's pretty much always going to cost you 3 CP, because I see Mortarion as being an auto include in pretty much every list. So you're always going to be paying 3 for it instead of having 2 for having that Lord of Virulence or whatever he's called. Again, it's okay. Right, next up, Deadwater again. Select 1 Poxwalker army from your select 1 Poxwalker army in your command phase, and roll 7d6 for each d. God, it's trying to read. They've not worded this the best. Use a stratagem in the command phase. Select 1 Poxwalker unit from your army. Roll 7d6s. For each 3+, one of that unit's destroyed models is added back, with 1 wound remaining. Models added back to unit in this way cannot be set up in engagement range of enemy, or can be set up in engagement range of enemy units that are already within engagement range of that unit. Each unit can only be selected for the stratagem once per battle. It's not bad. You're probably going to get, like, every time you use this, you're probably expecting to get about 3 or 4 Poxwalkers back, 1 CP. That might push you over that limit of getting 10, and if that rule is true about getting +1 to your weapon skill, obviously that's going to increase your effectiveness. It's okay. It's pretty good. Right. So this one I haven't read yet. It's quite shocking. So Cloud of Flies is 2 or 4 CP. So let's have a look. Use a stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 Bubonic Astartes infantry unit from your army, so you're not going to put on vehicles. Till end of phase, each time an enemy model shoots, if that unit is not the closest eligible target or within 12 inches, then until the shooting phase is resolved, that model cannot target that unit. In addition, until the end of the phase, if that is selected has a bodyguard ability, it loses that ability. If the selected unit is a Terminator keyword, it costs 4 instead of 2. This is a big nerf on Cloud of Flies, which 4 CP for putting it on Terminators. Look, they don't really need it because they're really tough as it is, but I don't see this getting any player really. And you can only put on infantry. You can't put this on any vehicles or demon princes or whatnot. It's a big nerf to it. Though look, let's stay positive because a lot of the other things that we've seen in this are very good. So next up, Break Their Spirits, 1 CP. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. When a Death Guard Terminator model from your army destroys a model with in an enemy infantry, beast, or swarm unit until the end of the phase, subtract 4 from the leadership characteristics of models in that unit. That's big. If there's any other ways to modify leadership or combat attrition tests, and you're forcing people to take combat attrition tests, which look, things like Marines and that, which I know I constantly bring them up, but the biggest thing going in the meta, or even against swarms or something like that. Look, anything that forces things, the morale's a lot more dangerous this edition, pretty much. So anything that's going to force people to take morale tests, or force them to spend that CP on insane bravery. You're making them waste 2 CP and they can only use it once a game. That could be the difference between winning or losing. So yeah, pretty good. And for 1 CP is very good. When you think about it, look, you get 1 CP each turn. It's nothing, it's throwaway. Next up, Dark Cravens. I believe this is the last one. I don't know if it's any good. So 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select 1 fetid bloat drone from your army. Until end of that phase, if the unit is within 6 inch horizontally and 5 inch vertically of any mini units, it's available to perform heroic interventions as if it was a character. When doing so, it can move up to 6 instead of 3. All of our rules for heroic interventions still apply. Look, that's not bad. 1 CP for, look, as I've mentioned in previous videos, it might even be in this one, heroic interventions on Space Wolves, anything like that, in the new engagement range rules, it's good. And it's a plague drones are tough units. So being able to send them in with plague mowers, or even the fact that they can now shoot into combat, is a big upgrade. So yeah, it's not a bad stratagem, and for 1 CP, can't really go wrong. So that wraps it up for today. As I say, I'll probably upload this, and then as soon as it's done, I'll probably have data sheets or something along them lines, which is not something that I'm going to upload to YouTube because that's copyright material. So it's not something that I'm going to put up. Yeah, obviously if you enjoyed this video, you found it I can never say informative, and you enjoy it, leave a like and comment, because from what I hear, it helps the algorithm on YouTube. More people get to see these videos, and obviously it helps the channel out. And obviously I love this hobby, and it's something that I'd like to obviously continually express or whatnot on YouTube. And it like I say, I enjoy doing this. So anything like that helps. So if you can obviously like the video, share it or whatnot. Leave comments on the audio quality and whatnot. I've tried out a different mic, if that's any better. Obviously check out my other videos. I've got plenty coming soon. Took on quite a lot of work that I'm halfway doing, a lot of it, and I haven't been able to get it uploaded. But this is a new way of just every single thing I've read off here, done it continuously, and it's my first impressions of this new book. Obviously I'm excited for a go out pre-order and see the rest of it. So yeah, all I've got to say is obviously thanks for watching, and obviously all of you stay safe out there.